to tell you that it's a terrible time to be building a startup. I know, you probably expected something a little bit more inspirational from me, but I'm just keeping it real. It's actually a really terrible time, and if you're here, you know that. The thing is, it's okay that it's a terrible time to be building a startup. See, I always like to joke that I have an A side and a B side. If you're old like me, you remember CDs or cassettes. Those had an A and a B side. My A side is very impressive. Let me tell you all about it. I went to the same college as Steve Jobs. I got a scholarship to go there. After college, I was hired by Tumblr to expand their operations in Latin America. And it went so well that I started my own company. I realized that there were tech startups and companies in the US that were super interested in expanding to Latin America. And Duolingo became an early client of mine. I went on to lead growth at Duolingo. I was their head of growth and marketing from 3 to 200 million users. After that, I had the opportunity to work at a presidential campaign in the United States. And then after that, co-founded a company that's backed by a couple of the world's biggest VCs, Andreessen Horowitz and NFX. It's pretty impressive. But since we're in such an intimate setting today, I will tell you about my B side. And I don't like to talk about it on stage normally. It's not very inspiring. I didn't get into any of the schools I wanted to get into when I left high school. When I finally got to college, I fell into such a deep depression that I actually had to drop out. I joked at the time that I was just following in Steve Jobs' steps, but really, I was just really depressed and I couldn't go to class. I ended up graduating in the United States, but I couldn't get a job. I applied to 100 different places, and I didn't get just no's. I got ghosting, nothing. I didn't hear back from almost anyone, and I got one internship. And it wasn't the best internship, and it didn't even go well. It was a Tier B marketing agency in the US, and I was kind of the loser intern because I had already graduated college and all the other interns were still in college. My boss was a heroin addict, so she had to leave the company, and then the company forgot to apply for my visa. So I actually had to leave the United States. After that, I kind of gave up on having a career. But Tumblr came along, and I was like, this is it. This is my opportunity. I'm going to make it. They laid me off 10 months later. And after that, before Tumblr, I forgot to mention I actually got laid off from one more job, and then I got fired from another job. Basically, there's a lot of things that went really badly in my life. Duolingo was awesome, but it was an early-stage startup. So you can only imagine how many ups and downs those were. And when I finally left, I didn't know what to do with myself. I got 2 jobs, they didn't work out, and then I worked on a US presidential campaign for someone who's not the president today. So it was actually a failure. If you hear those 2 stories separately, you would think I'm talking about 2 completely different people. But I'm actually talking about one person, it's myself. Those 2 stories, they highlight different moments in a person's life. The A side and the B side. Latin America also has an A side and a B side. The B side is really easy to focus on, and we all know what it is. We have political instability. Basically, all of our governments are corrupt. Maybe some not, but most of them are really corrupt. We are one of the most economically unequal regions of the whole world, where about 1 in every 3 or 1 in every 4 people are living in poverty. We have high crime rates, etc., etc. If you're here, you know that story very well. The startup opportunity in Latin America also has a B side. When I started working with Tumblr, everyone was excited about Latin America. All the startups, all the tech companies were like, ooh, there's so many people there. They're all on the internet. There's money, let's go. 2 years later, they were all gone. A couple years later, again, super interested in Latin America. And again, we fizzled. LatAm, the startup ecosystem, and I are all suffering from a moment right now where I think we'll look back and say, that was a B-side moment. For me, to be a little bit vulnerable, You know, everything is great. I am on stage for a conference for my company. I'm super excited. But I'm also suffering from a personal B-side. I actually have long COVID, which means I can't taste or smell anything, and it's been a long time, so it's hard to feed myself. So happily, I'm very thin now, which is great in Brazil. But I can't feed myself, and you know, it's hard to go through every day. But it's a moment. And for startups, as you know, it's not 2021 anymore. Everyone is tightening their belts. Capital is super expensive. It's hard to fundraise. There's layoffs everywhere, and many have had to close companies they worked really, really hard to build. But that's what they are. They're moments. Latin America's A side is really strong, full of promise, and the cool thing is that it largely depends on the tech opportunity ahead of us. I'm not going to go into all the numbers, because if you're interested, you should go check out Atlântico's report. Julio himself and Ana are going to be talking about it in the expert stage. But here are a couple numbers that make me know that it's not like we're fizzling again, that the opportunity is inevitable. As a region, we have 660 million people. We have a $6 trillion GDP. But here's the one I like the most. The market cap of tech companies in the region as a percentage of the GDP is about 1/4 that of India, it's about 1/9 that of China, and 1/30 that of the United States. It's a really interesting number that shows us just how much we have to grow. You might be thinking, okay, that's the A side, but we're in a B side. Are we going to fizzle again like we did before? And I'm here to say, I really think this is a different B side. It's a different moment from the ones we've had today, because there are a lot of things that are different today than in the past decade. One, we've never had such a high internet penetration. Actually, we've grown from 73% to 78% in the past decade across Latin America, which means we've surpassed China. Two, we've never had so many qualified professionals. We have 30 unicorns under our belt in Latin America. What that means is that there are people who have worked at highly scalable, very efficient tech startups. They know what they're doing, they led departments, and they're now available in the market to be hired or to start new companies. And there are people like me who got the opportunity to work at global tech startups and global companies and have now come back because we believe in Latin America and because we want to build here. There have also never been as many university students who are top of their class who want to work in tech startups, instead of going to the cushy jobs of banking and consulting. We've never had such a thriving tech ecosystem. 5,300 people signed up to be here today. 5,300, that's a lot for a moment that's a B-side moment. Of those, more than 2,500 are entrepreneurs, and more than 1,000 of them are investors. I talked to Paulo Veras yesterday. He's the founder of 99. You'll be hearing from him shortly. And he said that in 2012, when they started, they couldn't even fill an office room with startup founders. So things have really changed. Next, Latinos finally understand, or are starting to understand, what our power is in the world. I'm Brazilian, and we like to say we're not Latino. But let me tell you, I've lived for 19 years in the United States. We are Latinos, and I am very proud of that. We are very likely to invite people we've never met to a barbecue in our house today. We're all very likely to hug people we've never met. We dance better. But on top of that, we have very similar problems to each other. Our languages are similar, but our problems, the corruption, the crime rates, lack of access to things, just, lack of access to education, to health, all of these things we share, which means we have huge problems to solve. We are similar, and we occupy a huge region in the world. We are actually occupying, as a region, the largest latitude in the world, which is why latitude is called latitude. I bet you didn't know that. Imagine what we can accomplish if we work together, which is what we're starting to see happen. This is why we built Latitude. We knew there would be B-sides, because everyone and everything has an A and a B side. And we'd need a real community and we need to support the ecosystem, and we need access to amazing advice and top tools and technology to support the ecosystem in a moment of a B-side, which is what we are experiencing now. It's a lot easier to support startups when everything is great and everyone is throwing money. We're excited that in the Latitud community, we have 1,500 awesome tech founders supporting each other, sending WhatsApp messages, Slack messages, answering questions, taking time to answer each other's questions, which is awesome. We just opened our last cohort. We had 500 applicants, so the interest is super strong. And we have thousands more people as part of our extended community, including all of you. We started a fund because we knew it's hard to raise money, and also, frankly, because we were seeing such amazing opportunities that we knew we wanted to get our skin in the game. And we've now invested in over 100 startups, just 5 last week. And if you want to know more about the fund, you should listen to Tommy Roggio, our head of ventures, speak later as part of the spotlight, and a lot of these awesome startups are actually going to present on stage. And finally, we didn't raise a fund to build a community. We didn't raise capital from Andreessen and NFX to invest in a community only, but to build products that would support the tech ecosystem in LATAM at scale. We decided to build an operating system to make it easier to succeed as a startup founder in Latin America. And if you want to hear about that, we're actually launching and announcing a couple of things. You should hear my co-founder, Yuri, and the products team presenting later on stage today. To me, that's the most exciting one today. Yes, we are in a tough moment. But if you're here today, it's because you know that. Otherwise, you would have already gone B2B or B2C. Back to banking, back to consulting. You know what the opportunity is, and you're ready to fight. And we're in it together, and we can actually do this together, which is a lot easier. It's actually an amazing time to invest in Latin America right now, which is why we have 1,000 investors signed up. Valuations are lower. The hungriest and most resilient founders are the ones who are going to figure out and actually make it. And there's a ton of value to be captured. If the investors are excited, it means that there's a lot of reason for us startups to be excited as well. And the other thing is that they're looking for resilience. Latinos are resilient because it's really hard to live in any of these countries. You have to figure things out. You have to be resilient. Actually, since I spent so much of my career working at Duolingo, I'll give you a fun fact, which is that the retention rate for people learning English in Latin America at the time I was there was higher than most other parts of the world because Latinos stick to it. They know they need to learn English to double or triple their income potential, and they do it. So it doesn't matter if it's to learn a language or to build a scalable tech company, we can stick to it and we can make it happen. What motivates me personally in being here today is that I want to find the highest leverage way to apply my time to make a long-lasting impact on the social, economic mobility opportunities in our region. Duolingo, teaching English to Latin Americans, hundreds of millions of them, can help people double or triple their income potential. But startups have the potential to change everything. I joke also in my team that I don't believe in the government because I don't. I think they all suck. But I think that startups can actually build scalable businesses to solve problems for hundreds of millions of people, create jobs, impact the GDP. And so this is why I personally care. This is why we are here today at Latitud. And this is why you are here, because you're actually building the future of Latin America, no matter whether we're on an A side or a B side. So with that, welcome to Vamos Latam Summit 2023. We put this together to provide you with the highest density opportunity to learn from the greatest minds, not just from the ecosystem, but beyond. And for you to meet people who might become your next investors, your next partners, your next clients, or even friends. We know it's a lot to take 2 days from your businesses. We're all very busy running businesses. But the time you spend actually getting to know people and connecting, learning from the people we've worked really hard to get on stage, this will be an investment in your company, and it's worth stepping away from WhatsApp, Slack, emails, just for a little bit. I really hope you'll take advantage of it. Thank you for joining us and for building the future of Latin America. I'm super excited to welcome on stage the panelists for What Makes a Unicorn. We have the first and most recent unicorns in Brazil. Paulo Veras, founder of 99, first unicorn in 2018, and Daniela Binacci, founder of Pismo, which is the most recently minted unicorn. They will be interviewed by Rodrigo Bayer of Upload Ventures, who's been in the game since 2010 and knows a lot of A and B sides of our ecosystem. Welcome.